Rudisha was back for the 2009 World Championships in Berlin, and everybody was anxiously waiting and hoping that the king will be able to start.
Under some pressure, but he's in the front at the moment. Here comes Rudisha. Lopez trying to get there. Gary Reid trying to get there. Rudisha's struggling. It's only the top two. Lalu's stolen this. Rudisha's faltering at the end, and Lopez gets the second spot. 1:45.28, and I think that's going to mean that only the top two will go through, and that's it.
His tactics were very poor. Very poor. He didn't run well, and you could see he just wasn't up for it at the time. Came third in the semi-finals. The 800 meters is one of the toughest races on the track. You know, even going from semi-final to final, it's only two. So many people get knocked out in semi-finals of 800, top-class athletes, because they misjudged that two positions. Third, bitterly disappointed.
I was the best in that field, and then just to miss the final, you know, you have to go back and sit and ask yourself, what went wrong? And ask yourself, what can be done to improve from such mistake? Because at some point, yes, it was, you know, championship is a tactical race, and going there you always want to make, and the same is tough because you have to be in the first top two to make to the final, and especially in 800 meters. In 800 meters and the sprints, you have to be in the top two in the semi-final, and then the two best losers. So I think something just, I was running from behind tactically, and I used to sprint toward the end. But that day, when I tried to sprint, I was not moving, I was not reacting.
A disappointment that required a drastic action, and from a tactical approach of running his races from the back, it was now time for Rudisha to lead from gun to tail.
We had to go back to the drawing board and plan, and you know, even at that time, he would have said, oh God, this 800, can I really make it? And I would have even have said, you know, when he finished school, he asked me to continue as his coach. And I would even have said, am I really the right person for Rudisha? You know, would he be better off have gone away and gotten a more professional coach? And we sat down after Berlin, and we changed our training pattern. We changed our tactics during the race. After that, he ran from the front. That was the tactic. Never be caught behind again. As you know, you saw all these iconic races, all from the front. Gun to tape.
I was running a race that was not mine. So I said, if I have trained, I've prepared myself and I'm ready, I want to run my races. And that's how I changed from running from behind to the front.
A man on a mission he was, and he just kept winning, setting and breaking records at will.
This man finishes the season as the world's best.
We had the Africa Championships in Nairobi, and that's where I think he really showed his paces. He won the Africa Championships so easily in Nairobi. Now, he had been beaten in Berlin the year before in the World Championships. So 3 weeks after winning in Nairobi, I sat down with him in the at the warm down track and said, Rudisha, you look fantastic today. That was in Nairobi when he won the Africa Championships. I said, in 3 weeks' time, there's a race in Berlin, the very same track that you were disappointed on. We go back into the lion's den where you were beaten. 3 weeks' time. I said, I think there's something special. He went to Berlin. The rest is history. He broke Wilson Kipketer's world record. A week later, in Rieti, he broke the world record again. And but remember, these races were paced. So it wasn't until 2011 that Rudisha won a major championship race. He won the World Championships in Daegu in South Korea. He kind of put to bed the idea that I can't run championship races. So he had everything together by London.
That year, 2009, I ended up breaking the Africa record, which from Sami Koske, which stood for over 23 years. So you see, I was at least at the end of the year, I achieved something. And in 2009, the motivation that I gained from my confidence also gave me more confidence that next year, being a kind of a more relaxing year. You know, we don't have any major championship in, in 2010. We sat down with my coach at the end of the season and we discussed. And we said, next year we want to go for fast races. We want to, okay, that is maybe only our inner secret. That I want even to try the world record. But we never made it public. Because, you know, sometimes when you give a lot of information outside there to the public and maybe you don't meet those expectations, you know, sometimes it might just affect you.
But 2012 will forever remain etched in his memory. He was preparing for the race of his life. And others even doubted Rudisha's quest for a world record.
The question many are asking is, can he sustain this performance as we look to the Worlds and Olympics?
There was also a belief in the media around that time, Rudisha, you're able to win pace races. He had a pacemaker called Sami Tanguy. Rudisha can't win championship races. He's not able to go it alone, you know, when it comes to it and when it comes to the crunch.
And saving the last for the fastest world champion and world record holder in 800 meters, David Lekuta Rudisha did not break a sweat winning his race with Timothy Kitum and Anthony Chemut grabbing a ticket each to the games.
Nothing is easy, and this is being part of my preparation, and I have really worked hard and I've trained hard, and I'm in a good shape, and that's why you're seeing this performance look easy, but it's take a lot to be in that position.
I was the world champion because I won in Daegu the previous year, and I was the world record holder in 800 meters. And that year I was the world leading time. So every focus was on David Rudisha. So it was not easy, of course, and I knew it would be very disappointing. And I needed to win that Olympic. And the best way, after I sat down, I did all my drawing and going into such a big event whereby there is no room for mistakes. And if you make any simple mistake, you have to go back or you have to wait again. You have to wait again for the next 4 years for the next Olympic.
After 2 vigorous and rigorous days of Olympic trials, Team Kenya has finally been selected and unveiled. 2012 London Olympics, according to the organizers, will see a revamped Kenyan team and a team that is out to make history.
I'm very excited. This is going to be one of my biggest competition, and of course being the world record holder, the world champion, going to Olympic is very important for me because this is the medal that I've been longing for, and it's the only thing that I'm missing in my career.
Rudisha left Kenya for London carrying a Kenyan dream.
David Rudisha.
On your marks.
That was a very, very important race. It was a very important event. And beginning of the year, every single race we ran out there, the Diamond Leagues, we were building up toward the Olympics. There was no any other plan. So everything was just Olympic. We
have something very, very special on here as Amos, the other junior, now comes into second, ahead of our man. But it's Rudisha coming into home straight. We're going to be looking at the time very closely on this one. A brilliant run by the youngster Amos as he comes into second place. The other youngster, Kitum, is in third place now. Then a man, the three youngsters, with Solomon finishing. But Rudisha, what's the time? It's a world record! A world record here in London at the Olympic Games. From the greatest middle distance runner we've seen for a very long time. It's David Rudisha. 1:40.91 is shown on the clock. A full tenth of a second off the world record, and he did it, leading all the way. This is one of the greatest runs we've seen in Olympic history. He's retained his title 50 years after Peter Snell did it, and it's 50 years between Peter Snell's date of birth.
One of the best races. I also admire, even sometimes. I do watch myself, and it's sometimes funny if you watch yourself running, but this is one of the races that I still watch, and I just remember everything, and it's just as fresh as like yesterday, because that is one thing I can say I'm proud of, and I did exactly the way I was thinking, the way I was planning, and everything went as planned. Well, I was expecting, of course, a first time. I was expecting definitely, according to my plan, 141, because that is exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to do 141, but planning 140 was also was impressive, and sometimes it comes as a surprise.
One of the great Olympic moments which will go down in the annals and be referred to for years and years to come. This man is the best.
In all this, one man always kept a casted figure and maintained a low profile. Brother Com O'Connell, the coach who never traveled even for a single race outside the country, but he always did his job in a special way.
I don't need to go anywhere else. I didn't need to be in London to see Rudisha running an iconic race. I didn't say, I should have been there, or you should have taken me there, or... No. When my athletes develop and grow up and become senior, successful athletes, that's enough for me. That's plenty satisfactory. I don't need any recognition. I don't need any special attention or special position. I don't need it. I would like to be... Just remember there's somebody who came, did their best, made their contribution, and moved on.
But sometimes I feel like he has a lot of responsibilities back at home, more than he can travel with a few athletes, because Brother Coram Grances come from you know, to almost the whole year, because the senior goes only for a short holiday of about a month or two, and you know, the group was also widely widely represented in terms of events, because Choge was and Isaac Songo and the others like Mangata and Diwa, you know, those are they used to do the cross country and the indoors, and then outdoors we also have, and then championship. So you see, his program was almost running throughout the year, and you find that in most cases in events, a few athletes go to certain events, and therefore Brother Colm always is busy back at home preparing the others for the next competition and next event. Not forgetting that, you know, Brother Colm came to Kenya in the 1970s, and he has spent more than half of his life in Kenya. Brother Colm is a hero, because for somebody who was raised many people, you know, through his program and through his mentorship program, I think he deserves to be also celebrated in a special way, because so many, you can't find many coaches who have even just handled a number of like 10 or 15 medalists and maybe gold medalists through his program over the years. And if you see, Brother Colm never lost his contacts and touch to the athletes he trained earlier. And every time, you know, we keep on visiting him, because he is like a father to us. And he's a hero, and I think it's also good that we also recognize coaches who have achieved that.
After his exploits that saw him clock a world record, in 2013, while running in New York Central Park, Rudisha sustained a right knee injury. He sat out for almost a year, but on his return, he won the 2015 World and 2016 Olympics titles.
He is prone to injuries. He even had an injury in 2011 before he went to Daegu. So that was always ever in my mind about when coaching David. David, it was a very delicate balance to get the best out of him without pushing him into the injury territory. You know, there was always that danger with him, that he would pick up an injury. However, London, of course, went well, but shortly after London, he ran in New York in 2013. He won but shortly after that, he started complaining about a knee problem, and that was the beginning of his injury situation for the next 2 years, 2013, 2014. He had an injury. He even ran in the Commonwealth in Glasgow, where he was beaten by Amos Nigels, but he was carrying an injury into that. There was a lot of pressure on him to run the Commonwealth. Everybody wanted him to run it. He agreed to run it, but he had an aggravated injury when he was running that Commonwealth. And he kind of got a break then. In 2015, he came back very slowly, ran a few very low-key races. Did not do very well, but then when David made up his mind to do something, he went for it 100%. So I'd say around January, February 2016, he said, I'm going to have a go at Rio. I have 4 months to prepare, and I really go for it. And once he put his mind down to it, he got a new focus, a new motivation, even though he had gone through all these injury issues before that. He kind of said, I'll give it one more go and see can I see what I can do. Again, the rest is history. He got everything right on the day. He didn't run the same time as London because he wasn't in the same shape as London. And people were a little bit surprised, I think, with Rio, that he, after all he had suffered with the injuries, that he could come out in Rio and still run 1:42.1.
Rudisha last raced internationally on July 4, 2017. A quad muscle, back problems, a car crash, and surgery for a broken ankle have seen kept him off the track. And Brother Com believes that the king has nothing more to prove.
People would say, well, I would have expectations. If David said, I'm going to go back, come back again, I'm going to run, I'm going to become the 800 meter whatever, champion or whatever, I think people would immediately raise their expectations, raise their hopes. But I think David gave his best when we needed him, and he did us proud, and he achieved so much for the country.
And he asked me that if there is anything else I can do new. And I said, there's nothing. I don't see anything new. Because if it is world title, you already have it. If it is Africa Championship, you already have it. If it is the world record, and you also want male athletes of Olympics, the best male athletes of Olympic Games, the best male athlete of the year, IAAF. So he told me, what else will you do so interesting? Everything else is just repeating. And I think it's a best thing to hear it coming from your coach, who has raised you from young age as a youth all the way to the senior. It means that I have also done my part, and sometimes it's not easy for anyone to tell you something like that.
But for David Lekuta Rudisha, he has not yet downed his running tools.
I broke my fibula. I had a fracture, and it's taking longer than I expected. But I hope when that is completely addressed, the issues completely addressed, then I'll see if I can come back. Of course, you don't have, this is athletics, and even we have seen so many athletes who have done their best in track and in sports. And when it comes to the time you want to retire, you retire in your own way. And because that is the time also you have to reflect on what you have achieved. But until that time comes, I have not retired.
Will David Rudisha ever run again? You might just want to answer that, but this is what his tactician had to say.
I doubt it myself. I mean, if he's realistic about his career and about his ability, I think it would be sad to see a David Rudisha come back and struggle, because I think he has created such an iconic image of himself, to the public and even to the world of athletics.
Just as many other spectators, Rudisha is closely following the happenings at the Tokyo 2020 Olympics. And whether he runs again or not, King David has done duty for this country. But the question is, who will sit next to the king on the throne? Moses Wahrisi, KTN News.